So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tony Tong. I head up the eBay Automotive in UK. So today we have a panel discussion, talk about latest trend in the market, what's the implication to the automotive and e-commerce. But before we introduce my dear panel members, I just want to say a few things, right? So we all been through 3 exceptional years, right? And that's with loads of uncertainty, right? We start with Brexit, then COVID, lockdown, the war, the cost of living, and on, right? And what we observe on eBay is more customers come to eBay, regardless you are individual customer or you are business customer. Because when the stock is not available, when availability is poor, when the physical store is closed, they actually come to eBay who offer the range and the depth inventory actually brought by everyone in the room onto eBay. We actually offer a level of certainty in a very turbulent market condition, right? But on the other side, we observe the market is changing and the customer behavior is changing. That's why we bring a few experts in the industry to shed a light on what is changing and what's the implication to everyone. With that, can I ask Al, maybe you introduce yourself, then Andrew and Quentin. Right.
Thanks, Tony. My name is Al Preston. I'm co-founder of whocanfixmycar.com. We're an online marketplace for car repairs, very much going to do what we say in the title. I've been doing this for about 9 years. We were kind of one of the first businesses to bring workshops onto the internet in this way. And it's been an interesting journey, not straightforward. It's had its challenges, but we've got a decent platform now, and I'm delighted to be able to be here today with you guys. I think the supply chain is a particularly fascinating part of our platform, and hopefully I can offer some insight into that later.
Oh, what did you buy?
Yeah.
Do I have to do that?
Yeah.
I think on eBay, I mean, it's a bit of a glib statement, but what one man's waste is another man's treasure, and I think that is something that I've definitely seen, and it's just blown my mind when I've sold unwanted furniture that, frankly, I think I would probably just chuck in the tip, and actually someone comes and pays me a good amount of money for it and travels across the country to collect it, and that is the power of the platform. So yeah, lots of those instances.
Thank you. Andrew?
Thanks, Al. So my name's Andrew Rowson. I run an organisation called Emotive, which is a marketplace agency that looks after specifically parts and accessories. I've been involved with car parts for about 20 years. Was the first $1 million car parts seller on eBay early 2000s, and learnt all the changes and embracing all the changes, and embracing eBay as a great marketplace to sell car parts. First thing I ever bought on eBay was in 2001, a Pioneer sat-nav system, and this was back in the days where sat-nav wasn't in a mobile phone. It was like a suitcase, and I drove 150 miles to go and get it because I didn't trust paying £1,000 to somebody I didn't know. Paid the money, took it, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. I could probably sell things myself, and that's how we got started.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Quentin. I work for JIPA UK. We are a market research company that specializes in automotive aftermarket. And when I say automotive, it's from motorcycle, car parts, or cars, passenger cars, trucks, light commercial vehicle, and so on. Everything related to the after sales, not the sales in itself. So that's what we do. And in terms of my sales on eBay, I actually think it was the first one. If I think about the first one, it was a old calculator machines that you actually turn like this. And anyway, my dad is fond of those stuff, and we had to get rid of a few with a good profit versus a car boot sale. So that would be my first one.
Brilliant. So you can see, actually, we have the panel members from all different aspects of the industry. I guess maybe let's kick off the discussion about a more general question. What has happened for the automotive industry in the past 3 years? Maybe Quentin, as you are holding
Yep.
Start, yeah.
So if we look back, and thinking we're almost in 2023. If we look back to 2020, basically, if we take into account the dynamism of the market, the car market, we haven't been selling cars for the last 3 years. We sold in the UK 1.6 million. 1.65 million last year, 1.6 million the year before. We're probably not going to do much better than 1.6 million again. And if you compare that to the level that were sold back in 2016, record years that were almost 2.7 million that time, you understand that we're missing almost 3 million cars accumulated over the last 3 years, new cars. What does it mean? It simply means that the car park is aging. And because of that injection of new cars is not happening, the car park is aging very, very fast. Okay, we expect to have a car park of 9.5 years old at the end of 2024. It was 7.7 years old before COVID. Okay, so that just gives you how fast it is shifting. And the 0 to 4 years old car park is really shrinking. It lost 10 points in just from 28% to 18% in just 5 years. So that's a lot of figures, but what this means for you here in the room is basically that the older the car is, the most likely there are repairs, expensive repairs to be done on the car, and the older the car is, the more people want to get a bargain. And where do they get a bargain? Online. So it's really an opportunity to seize in the coming years, and yeah, I think it's important that you're aware of this, and that following actually the new car sales redefine what your business is going to look like, what your business opportunity is going to look like in the coming future. So that's important.
Good. Andrew, what's your assessment?
Yeah, thanks, Quentin. So to kind of really back up what Quentin's been saying, the last 2-3 years have been something that we've never experienced, either as sellers or as buyers online. So as sellers, there's been an increase in sales. People have been forced to stay at home. So your hobbyists trying to fill their time in repairing that car that's been in the garage, or building that performance back on that vehicle and buying parts for that. So I think you could all tell stories about how your sales have increased over that time. The challenge has been about supply and actually accessing those parts. So we talk to a lot of brands that have had get their main supply in the Far East, and that's been cut off for them. And there's brands that can't even supply their B2B network, let alone service you sellers selling B2C. So it's been great to sell, but then as soon as you run out, that's when things start drying up. So one of the things that really has come out of this is that we have to sell in a different way. And that's brands and manufacturers embracing online through resellers such as yourself, and helping you and building that data in order to help you to sell smarter online as well. Because it will be tough coming into the next few years, which we'll talk about a bit later.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, from my perspective, I think the last few years, with the decline of new car sales and this aging car park, we've had a kind of proliferation of partnership activity within our business. So people who are seeing the aging car park and thinking, right, there's a lot more repairs going on, I want to get involved, I've got this big customer base, I want to access this. And I guess we're relatively well placed because we've got thousands of workshops on a digital platform, and they can connect with us and get access to that activity with their customers and monetize it. So we now work with all sorts of partners such as the RAC, Kazoo, Northgate, Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So people that have naturally big interests in this space or adjacencies in our space, and they can access the space via an online marketplace. And then I think also, just on the drive up here today, talking to a bunch of our workshops and just saying, eBay, discuss. And our workshops, the big success stories are very curious, entrepreneurial, and very good problem solvers, and that is what they use eBay for more than ever. They've got a customer there. There's an expensive repair. Their options in terms of supply chain are, well, we can get a brand new part from the dealer, but it's going to be 400 quid, or we can source one from eBay, and they kind of look the customer in the eye and they say, and I trust eBay because I buy a lot from eBay, and they source the part and they look after the customer, and I can only really see that kind of behavior increasing more. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's resonates with our eBay data as well. Right? We're thinking that's a very clear kind of step up, the volume from the business and the garages, workshops, looking at eBay as alternative source of inventory in global supply chain constraint. I think one thing I want to touch on, I think mainly for your content, like on eBay we see kind of more people looking for convenience. So that's why we can launch tire installation, and we're kind of moving towards parts installation as well. Did you see from the research data perspective also that's a trend in the market?
Yes, definitely, and especially since more and more people are working at home. I think you can hear that I'm not British, but in the UK, even before 2020 and COVID, I think working from home once in a while on a Friday and so on was already culturally something that most people that can do because they don't have to be on site would do. It's just even more now, and we got used to be at home and not have to go wherever to get whatever we need. So what we really see on the fitment, and if we talk about tires especially, but it would be the same for most parts, is that you have two types of prompt to change a tire, something that is not planned and something that is planned. For what is unplanned, the urgency makes it sometimes that there is a faster route to get that tire fixed or whatever. However, on the planned side, people, if they can be at home or at work in their office and getting work done while their car is being repaired, they're up for it, and they're actually up for it to pay quite a bit of money as well. This is what is quite interesting. The population that is first looking online is generally quite literate about cars. Okay, they know what they're looking for. The second type of population would be the one that are looking for the cheapest price. There are two different type of people, and the one that are looking for that convenience of mobile repair and so on are the one that have the means and that value their time more than going to wherever it is that they will get their car fixed. So there is definitely some opportunities here to upsell and to make and to offer a more 360 offer to the client, to the end consumer. So definitely something that we will see growing and growing in the future as working from home stays in our mind, if we can say that.
And thank you. And Andrew, I have a question for you actually, because you're working with loads of sellers, brands, bring kind of the e-commerce to them. What's your general assessment about their e-commerce readiness to selling through someone like eBay?
So readiness is a challenge because eBay needs buyers and sellers, and in order to create that fantastic buying experience, it needs to be an easy experience for the buyer. So I know you've all probably embraced the latest item specifics and all the releases that have been going on. And it is important as sellers that you do that because it helps the buying experience. So data is the key, and ensuring that your products are ready for that data not only optimizes you in search and you're more likely to sell over your competitors, but also it reduces returns as well because it gives that confidence that the buyer's buying the right thing first time as well. And we don't like returns as sellers, do we? We hate that. So it's the nature of the beast. So, this is why to invest in that data will pay dividends in a number of ways. Absolutely.
Good. Right. Any other comments on what has happened the past few years?
I was just on something that you both mentioned earlier is part supply. I think it's important to have in mind because what happened in the last 3 years, we could be there still at 8 p.m. and I would still be talking. So just one thing I want to mention on top for the last 3 years is part supply. Part supply, there is a tremendous tension about part supply. The reasons for that are multiple, but in the end, what this means for you, because that's what is important, is that you have some potential purchaser you've never seen before, and not necessarily B2C buyers, but also B2B buyers. I'm thinking, for example, of OEMs, I won't necessarily name them, but vehicle car manufacturers that didn't manage properly the transition between the import, the way they did it before Brexit and after Brexit, and they really struggle to, and they are still not back on track in terms of the supply they currently have in the UK. Lead time, technician, we know all of this is also a challenge for them. Shortage of talent is something we've been talking about for years and years. All of this means that you have more and more lead time. As a garage, you have more and more lead time. It's becoming more and more challenging to service your customer within 1 day, within 2 days. Okay, and having the right parts for them can be an issue. And if your Ford, your Renault, your Audi, and you can't get that part, that genuine part, you need to find a solution. And this is really where there is a great opportunity for you to get that new customer on board. And I'm talking about a dealership, and potentially even more, you can actually make them loyal. Okay, so for me, I would say it's quite an important one on the part supply issue. We always had part supply issue. We will always have, and so that's one to have in mind.
Brilliant.
Just to add on that, one thing, you guys are the specialists. You understand car parts. You understand cross-platform as well. So that interchange number, the OEM number on the listings, really, really important. Peugeot, Citroën cross-platform, Fiat cross-platform, Ford, Audi, VW of our group. Make sure you put that on the listings, because if they're trying to find the part for a VW and a Skoda will fit, then you'll sell that part if you've got that data on there.
Okay, thank you. Very practical advice. So I think we move on a bit from like what happened in the past 3 years. So we look at the future a bit, right? So I think as everyone can see, right, there's more and more electrical vehicles on roads. And we, as eBay, we are closely monitoring that situation to see what's the implication to us. And the content, I think you got some data regarding like what is acceleration really looks like from the data perspective, right?
Yeah, again, the last 3 years since 2020, the percentage growth in terms of volume of sales of electric cars, purely electric cars, BEV, has increased and is increasing year on year by over 40%. So we are really entering that phase of early stage, moving towards the next step that would be early majority. We're not there yet, but this is very important to have this in mind, because what we expect is that by 2030, 27% of the car park will be purely electric. So even though 14% of new car sales every year at the moment, and growing every year as well, are electric cars, it will take still another 7 years to get to only 27% of the car park. Okay, so it's moving slowly, but it's moving surely. Okay, we have almost 33 millions of cars to actually replace, so it will take time. What is interesting and what is important to have in mind, first of all, that car park at the moment, because it's just increasing and developing, is very young. Okay, it is very young, but what we can already see is that people that have electric cars seems to be keeping those cars a bit longer than the usual diesel or petrol cars. This means that the first owner might go to the franchise dealer and then afterwards look for another option. Those people are also the ones that have a higher household income. They have as a disposable income almost twice as much as the average UK person, British person. Okay, they are looking for convenience and higher means. They are looking for they're shopping online, especially for accessories at the moment, because the cars are still too young to have some big problems to be solved. But this will come, and really, this is a piece of the pie that is interesting because we're not talking about people that are going to haggle on the price. We are going to people that are looking for convenience and that are ready to pay the price that is needed, so they don't waste their Saturday morning going to a garage. Okay, so for me, that's something very important to have in mind. It will take time to get to 100% of cars that are electric. It will take ages. Okay. On the other hand, there is very specific demographics of drivers, of EV drivers, that are very important to have in mind. So you can start building your strategy and operation around those stocks. Okay.
Yeah, on eBay we already start see a very clear kind of trend buying charging cables and wall boxes, right? So it's coming, but I guess the parts bit probably will hit us a few years after. So Al, I would like to have your point of view about, you're working very closely with the garages, workshops. How do they see as opportunity or risk, and how to prepare for it?
Yeah, I think what will happen is there will be a consolidation in the space. So there will be a cohort of garages. So let's just say there's 40,000 in the country, and there'll be a big chunk of those who will just kind of wind down their businesses and actually retire. There's a lot of people that have got businesses that have been around for a long time. They're lifestyle businesses, and they've got a kind of longer term plan in mind. And what will happen is that you will see, and we're already seeing it, the kind of the emergence of these kind of super garages or chains. National chains. There's a lot of consolidation going on in there, and those guys are upskilling and getting trained and getting all of the equipment in place to take on this big transition. And so you will end up having fewer garages, but they'll be more efficient. So I think today our garages are actually, there's a lot of inefficiency. So they might be running at, 60% capacity, and then in 10 years' time, you'll have 2/3 of the number of garages all running at 85% capacity. And of course, they'll then be able to charge more money. And I guess arguably the kind of Fred in the shed stereotype backstreet garage, without all of that necessary new equipment, that will probably fade out. But as we were just discussing, there will also be a very large amount of addressable opportunity in the people that want to hold on to those petrol cars and maintain them and caress them and nurture them and keep them in the garage. So that's obviously still going to be a very large opportunity as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think we just discussed because a lot of these traditional cars will discontinue, so become much more valuable if you keep hold of them and continues to build on that. And Andrew, I would like to have your point of view regarding okay, so we're all thinking about EV is become more dominant car on the road. We know this is more difficult to be DIY. What is your kind of assessment that impact of e-commerce?
We're seeing that now. There's a lack in two places, a lack of parts to service these vehicles, but also a lack of experience to actually do the servicing of these vehicles as well. So a lot of it's going into the dealer network, not much in respects of aftermarket specialists. I'll give you my own example. So I've got a 2013 Renault Twizy. Don't judge me for that. I don't know if you know that vehicle. It's a four-wheeled electric quadricycle. The battery is dead. The Renault network does not want to support it. So I had to find a specialist to do that. And it cost me nearly £1,000, £2,000 to actually get that done. But I was stuck. Either scrap it or get it maintained. Needed a 12-volt battery. Had to source that from Spain because there was none in the UK. And then as I drove it, the tyre went pop. And these are 13-inch small, bicycle tyres. And again, I had to source that from Germany. I see that as an opportunity for you guys, as your manufacturers that you buy from, start looking at factories that are white labeling this and start getting that inventory ready, because it's only going to increase. As Quinton's just said, the car park's going to increase. You need to be on that that journey early doors. So, you know, and then it becomes, you know, people buy for one of three reasons: price, availability, quality. With hard parts, normally availability is the driver, because you don't keep a spare set of brake discs in your garage. You get them done, you buy them when you need them. Performance slightly different, but with hard parts, it's like that. So if you've got that available, then you can command a better price for that as well. So it then doesn't become a race to the bottom as well from that point of view. But I see this as an opportunity. You just need to twist and diverse quickly as the market changes, and that's my advice on that.
Brilliant. Anything to add?
I would just say one thing that is important. Potentially you're already convinced, maybe your customers, your B2B customers are unconvinced yet. Those cars that are electric, everyone is starting from scratch. The franchise dealer, yes, their name is written, and that's the same name that the one that is written on the car, okay, in terms of label, but they didn't manufacture that car. No one in the or very little people in those workshops have actually manufactured the car, and therefore everyone is starting from scratch. Independent garages as well as dealers, and I can guarantee you that that there is no better or worse solution on both sides. It's just a matter of training. It's just a matter of embracing change and making sure that we seize that opportunity when it's there.
Just quickly add on that. The battery that I bought wasn't the Renault battery. It was an XCD battery, because they make it for Renault. And because the seller had put the OEM number on there, that's how I found it. So that's why it's really important that you have as much information on your listings, and you're going to get that sale when, you know, the journey didn't start out that way for me.
And I think 12-volt batteries, I was with a big battery manufacturer yesterday, and they are absolutely convinced that sales will remain consistent in 12 volts, won't they? Because they still degrade at the same rate, even in an EV, than in an ICE vehicle. So if you're selling batteries, probably a good place to be.
Yeah, I had that perception that the big battery would charge the small battery, but that doesn't happen. I found that out the hard way. But yeah.
Brilliant. So I think that's good kind of a conversation about EVs. And the next question I have is, obviously we are facing a tremendous change, maybe the change into the automotive industry for since the cars invented. What will be your one piece of advice to all the eBay sellers in the room in terms of how they prepare for that?
Well, I can't sit here and proclaim that I should be dishing out advice to all these sellers who are obviously very good at what they're doing. But I think that enthusiast market that we talked about earlier people will double down on that as ICE vehicles get phased out. People like me, who I wouldn't say I'm a kind of classic car enthusiast, but I will want to hold on tightly to my favorite ICE vehicle or two, and I think that market will continue to grow. And then I think just my advice is probably more really by riding the coattails of eBay that you guys can connect with this. But I think these EV vehicles are obviously not very cheap units. They cost kind of upwards of £50,000 very often. And I think what will happen is that people that buy those vehicles, because of the ticket price, they're going to be leasing them. There's going to be some kind of funded product, and often those types of deals are associated with maintenance packages and everything else. So I would kind of challenge eBay to kind of stay close to that supply chain so that they can funnel in their supply chain into all of the follow-on maintenance works that comes from those vehicles, albeit under the guise of a lease plan maintenance product, or Arval or Northgate or whoever it is.
Okay, thank you. Andrew?
So there's still going to be a market, you know, if you've ever been to SEMA or Apex in the US, you know, you see the monster trucks, you see the souped up vehicles. From a performance side, I can see still a good future for parts in that area. Where it's the traditional combustible engine side, that will drop off as EV comes on board. But it is a journey. And I think there is an opportunity to embrace both, hopefully within my working lifetime, if that makes sense. So I think you need to get those parts listed as quickly as possible. We talked about wall boxes and charging cables, and they are at a premium at the moment. The prices will come down as more people need them and have them. But that, the cables is a tremendous opportunity if you can source those through your supply and list those. There's a lack of inventory of that on eBay at the moment. So have a look at that. Use TerraPeak in the back end. Look at where the sales are building. You have all that data there, but also make sure when you list, it's the best listing ever so people can find your products.
And I would say on top of parts that we mentioned, equipment for the garage as well. There is a huge opportunity here. Think about all the garages that you cross on every drive you go home or something like this. They will all need to be equipped at some point if they want to make money. So that's something else to think about. I would say more generally, same. I don't know if I have a really good piece of advice to give you, but stay tuned on how the industry is moving. And as what this morning was said during the keynote this morning, know your customer, know your competitor, know the trends, and make sure you have the process in mind of, okay, what does that trend mean for me, and what can I do so I will profit from it. But that's what I would say.
Thank you. So I guess I just like quickly summarize the key takeaways based on our discussion, right? So the first thing is installation to unlock the new buyer segments, especially in the EVs world. I feel like people probably don't make that purchase decision as often as they used to be because the car lease and also the complexity of fixing the EVs. eBay doing everything we can to stay within the supply chain by offering tire installation, parts installation, but really want you guys to join that kind of the new journey to kind of feed your parts into a new way. The second thing is we do have a lot of business buyers, right? I think Al mentioned that, and I think Quentin mentioned it as well, and also think about the new equipment they need prepare them for the EV. I think that's a huge opportunity for us to satisfy the emerging business demand on eBay. Number three is, yes, EV going to shift the demand, right? But as we said, there's people who are going to spend more on traditional vehicles, and the EV will see. We're reducing the demand on certain category like service parts, but definitely open a new opportunity in other parts. I think everything we need to do is stay tuned, understanding where the market opportunity comes, right? So given the time, I probably don't have time to do a Q&A, but all my panel members will stay after that, so you can grab them if you have further questions. Can I ask you to give a round of applause to these experts and their insights? Thank you.